Hey everybody, and welcome back to my channel. In this video today, I'm going to share with you my process for carrying out my outlook for trading for the week. Trading the Forex markets, the market is open 24 hours a day, 5 days a week, which means that we get the weekends off. Well, on the weekends, I always like to find a little slice of time to use to carry out some preparation work for the week ahead. And I'm going to share the entire process with you. It is so beneficial to be prepared and organized when you are trading. It is a very important part of a trader's plan. It helps you to stay ahead of the game. So all of the software that I will be using is linked in the description below. Make sure to stick around right until the end if you want to catch an update on my account trading with the prop and the 5%ers. And as always, please remember to like and subscribe to the channel. Let's get straight to it. Hey guys, I hope that this is sounding okay because I've come down with quite a cold this morning and I feel like I'm super bungled. But let's crack on. So the first step to carry out when you are doing a weekly outlook preparing for the trading week is, of course, to check for any upcoming news and events that are being released. And to do that, I like to use the website forexfactory.com. It's a brilliant free resource. From the homepage here, I'm just going to click on the calendar right at the top. And it's automatically set up for this week, the one that's just gone. So I'm going to just move this on here to next week, December the 1st to December the 7th. Now, there is something else you can do on here, and that is to filter. So I'm going to go on the right hand side to this little tab here, that's the filter. I have this automatically filtered on high impact and medium impact news, as well as the grey one, which is basically telling me of any upcoming bank holidays that might affect the markets. Personally, I just find that removes this yellow box, which doesn't really tend to affect the markets, and I just like to see what is really important. I've also got this filtered on certain currencies. Now, these are the main currencies I like to trade, which news might affect the market movements. If you like to trade the Canadian dollar or any of the others that aren't ticked here, make sure to carry out your own. But I'm going to leave that as it is for now. So at a glance, I just like to look for what is exactly coming out next week. So Monday, we've got quite a bit, Tuesday a little bit, Wednesday quite a lot, a little bit Thursday, a little bit Friday. So every day has got something going on. And at a glance, it looks like the US dollar is dominating the news release for next week. A little bit of other things, but let's look in more detail. So on the Monday, the main high impact news is for the US dollar. It's ISM manufacturing PMI. Now that's not being released until 3 o'clock in the afternoon. Of course, remember guys, I'm here in the UK. So all of this is based on UK time. So for the US, this would obviously be in the morning. But here it's 3 o'clock in the afternoon. And I find that can provide a choppy market condition in the day, typically using historical data. And so looking at this, for me, I would tend to avoid trading until the afternoon when that's been released, because ISM manufacturing PMI can create a little bit of volatility if it is an important data, if it is strongly away from the forecast here. So on the right hand side, we've got a forecast percentage here, forecast figure, and then the actual will be released at 3 o'clock on the Monday. And there's also somebody talking, a FOMC member talking in the evening. I don't trade the evenings, so that's not really relevant to my strategy, but keep it in mind if you tend to trade the evenings. Moving on into Tuesday, we've got another US dollar news release at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, JOLTS job openings, which once again I do find a little bit typically choppy because sometimes the markets can be a bit slow in the anticipation of that news release, and so I'm going to play it by ear that day. If it doesn't look like it's that clear from price action, I may wait until 3 o'clock for any trades. Moving on into Wednesday, we've got for Australian dollar GDP quarterly being released in the morning. So that, when I wake up, will have already been released, but it might mean that there will be some movements happening with Australian pairs. There's also pound news release at 9 in the morning. And next week is the first Friday of the month, so it's NFP, which in itself can provide a choppy week. Whenever it's NFP news release on a Friday, on that same week, from the Wednesday onwards, it can tend to be quite choppy in anticipation of that event. If you're watching this and you don't know what I'm talking about, NFP is the non-farm payroll, the employment change, and it's probably the major news release that happens once a month for the dollar, so it can provide a massive movement for any US dollar pairs, also for gold. So it's really important to be aware of that. I certainly would not personally be in any trades whilst that news is being released, but once the news has been released, it might provide some movement in the markets. It might provide a trading opportunity. So just going back to the Wednesday, we've got the kind of preliminary news release for that for the dollar at 1:15. And then ISM services in the afternoon again. Thursday, unemployment claims, that happens every week for the dollar. Now, that for me looks like the best day, the Thursday, for trading, because we've only got this one news release for the dollar. But because it's the day before NFP, I am not promising I'm going to trade. I'm just going to play it by ear and look at price action, because it may be a choppy week on the run up to NFP news release. Which is why it's always so important to check out the news calendar of what is going on. It can already give you an edge on the markets if you go unprepared. If you start the week trading and you find that it's harder to predict, or the market seems a bit slower, but you know that these news releases are coming up, sometimes it can be better to sit on your hands and wait for the market to catch up. Of course, the other option, if you really must trade, is to look for a pair that doesn't have any kind of volatility or news event coming up. So for me, looking at this, for Monday and Tuesday, there isn't anything there for the euro or for the pound, so euro pound could be a good pair to look at. I will be analysing that in just a moment. So once you have done your news analysis, you've got an idea of the fundamentals that are happening next week, the next step for me is to go to technicals to do your technical analysis. Now, to do this, lots of people will have a different way on how they do this. And a lot of this comes down to what exactly you are analysing, what market you are analysing. You may be watching this and you may already know what markets you like to trade, and if so, that's brilliant. You can still follow along and maybe pick up some ideas along the way. Or you may be watching this as a complete beginner, wondering what you are going to trade. What do you trade? You may have an indication on the market. You may prefer Forex, you may prefer indices or commodities, but you might not know what actual asset to trade. Personally, I tend to stick to the same assets, and I have a watch list that helps me out. So I use TradingView platform, and on the right hand side here, this is my watch list. It's looking a little bit busy at the moment. In fact, I should probably neaten this up with you. But the main pair I like to trade, I've been trading pound dollar solely for years now, because it's just really developed that relationship with the asset. I feel much more in tune because I have been following the market movements. Recently, I've also been looking at EURUSD and Euro pound. Once I first started Forex, I went through that phase of trying to trade everything. And then I really reduced it to keep it simple. And now I'm starting to slowly integrate a few more assets to just maximize profits. And there will be a few pairs I look at. So I'll have a little look at gold as well today. But that's mainly to give an indication on the market for US dollars. So I might not actually trade gold, but I like to look at gold because it's interesting to just see how it is moving. I do like to look at the DAX. I will have a quick look at SPX if we have time, as well as Bitcoin, which has been moving quite a lot. I'm in a few cryptos at the moment and it seems to be doing really well. So I will try and have a look at that as well. So let's start at the beginning on pound dollar. And once again, if you're not too sure what to trade, I do suggest just keeping a short watch list like this and just keep an eye on the pairs weekly, update them and follow them and go from there. Really, it's really good to just build the routine so that you can get to know the assets and the markets. Okay, so pound dollar had a really interesting move at the end of last week. Fortunately, I caught a nice portion of this move from here, which was really nice. Because the start of the week, it felt like it was really quite choppy. But I'm going to go to the higher time frames and have a look exactly what's been going on. So the weekly, we got a more of a bullish close. We have been coming down quite strongly bearish for pound dollar, but last week it closed bullish towards the end, which is interesting because we came to this area here. What is that area, you may be thinking? Well, I think it would be easier to look at this on the daily time frame. I'm basically just scrolling out so we can see the last year's worth of data for the daily. And I'm looking at very basic market structure, making a high, a low, breaking this high, making a new high, and a new higher low. All the way up past this blue level, which was a weekly level, a key weekly level, where we got a run on a liquidity above it, strong sell-off back below it, broke this low, we got this gap slide here, and we have been selling off since then. Now, taking my fib tool from the start of this move, this low here, which was just over a year ago, and this gives us the three areas of optimum trade entry from my fib tool. I created a separate video which talks about this a lot more detail in the settings, but this is what I marked on my daily chart here to just keep an eye on, and it seems to be this that it is the price it's reacting to. Now, I don't tend to stay too far back on the daily because I'm a day trader and that's a lot of information, but it helps to just get these levels update them maybe quarterly, and I just wanted to show you where that came from. So now just zooming into the most recent daily price action here. Most importantly, what's been going on recently is prices come down. It made a high here, it made a low, so this was the new lower high, but last week price has broken above this level. We're getting a change in behavior, so this could very well be a deeper pullback. Price may be pulling back to continue this overall downtrend, or it could be a reversal. So I'm going to just mark out this level here, because that was the previous lower high and price has broken that, closed above it quite strongly. This could provide a few different scenarios next week. So price may continue with this momentum and it may continue pushing up, and so I would look for a faster time frame entry, something maybe on the 15 minutes with the larger time frame of 4 hourly for confirmation. This fib level I've drawn out here, the structural level, is another area that price may pull back to. This is the questions that you should be asking yourself when you are analysing, is where is price likely to move to? That's what it's all about, is identifying these areas. And so I used the fib tool from this key level here. Why did I use that? I used simple market structure, these lower lows, lower highs, lower lows, lower highs. That made a low, but it made a new high here, and then immediately came back down. So that's a really important area. And since then, price has just fell down. So it makes this a very important key structural level. And if I drop the fib tool to the bottom here, that's where I got these 3 optimum trade entries from, because price is likely to move back to there. We've got an area of confidence because we've also got a fair value gap here. So I think it's likely that price will be drawn to this like a magnet. It'll want to fill the space, so it might push through there into this area. I think that's important because it helps me to identify that short term this week, price is very likely to push up, but also that if we start to get some hesitation here, just to be aware that this might be an area where price could reverse and drop down, or if we break it, it could very well carry on up. All these different scenarios to consider. I'm going to just drop to the 4 hourly as well, just to get a little bit more information here. So it shows you this nice pattern that we got as price broke this key level. And from last week, this is the sort of price action we got. We've got this high, this low, this new high here, pullback, high, pullback, and price closed up here. So because price is pushing up quite strongly, I was in this trade, so I felt the buying momentum behind it. I'm also going to just take the fib tool from the most recent low here, the most recent pullback, and drop it at the highs, because if we get a little drop down Monday, if price falls into this area and gives me an interesting candlestick pattern, this could be a nice area to get long, to join this little trend that we are experiencing as price pushes up to this fair value gap. And finally, just dropping to the 15-minute time frame, I'm just going to neaten this up a little bit. So I will enter the markets around about 5:30 Monday morning, and I'll see what happens. Obviously, we might not get this. It doesn't always do what you want it to. But if price sort of sells off a little bit Monday, if during the London session it comes to this area and we get something interesting happen, I may get long here. We'll see. I also add this indicator to trade with the daily high and the low. So previous daily high and low, this will be towards the bottom of the previous day, the Friday, which again could be a good area to get long. So that is a very brief overview for a forecast for pound dollar, and I am more long biased on this until we get up here, so we'll see. Now, I don't want to spend that much time on every pair because it's going to make this video very long, so I'm just going to do a quick overview here on EURUSD, which always starts with tidying up after myself from the previous week. So on the weekly, as with pound dollar, we were coming down bearish, but last week it closed quite strong bullish. And just going to the daily time frame here, I'm just interested in, once again, looking at market structure. Market structure is the foundation for my analysis using price action. I don't tend to use any indicators, moving averages, because the candlesticks tell you everything that you need to know. And here, let's keep it really simple, just looking at market structure. This is the deepest pullback, so this is the major structure, the major lower high here, which is what I've used for this Fibonacci retracement tool and what I've used to identify the optimum trade area. I removed the fib tool to keep it tidy, and I've put this rectangle here. So once again, this is an area I think price may be drawn to come back to. If it pushes up into this area, we may get a consolidation, a breakdown, and that could be a good place for a short. Of course, price could always just keep on going up. We will see. The box above it is from where I've drawn right from the high of the move here, because if price breaks this first one, it may pull back into this one. So it's always good to just have these areas drawn out on your charts. Now, it's a little bit different to pound dollar because on the daily here, it's not actually broken this key structural level, which was the previous pullback. So at the moment, we are still very bearish on euro, even though we've got this bullish close on the weekly. There's no guarantee it is even going to come up to these areas. I wouldn't really be interested in going long until we've got a strong close above this level here on the daily. There's still a possibility on euro that we might just get a double top pattern here. It could even be this one forming and a drop off. So I'm waiting for some confirmation really on a larger time frame for euro, mainly on the 4-hourly, to get a weekly bias on this. If it's in sympathy with pound dollar, we may very well get a break above this level, maybe a retest for a long. So we shall see. On the 15-minute for euro, we did get this really interesting pattern here. We had a high from the bodies forming on the Wednesday. On the Friday, we got a break above that, but we got this immediate drop down, this large bearish candlestick here. And then we got this gap size. Now, price has broken out of that, and it looks like it's trying to break this, but it was struggling to Friday evening. So I'd be curious, if we get a break above this level, then obviously price is probably going to continue up. But if we get some strong bearish candlestick pattern that seems like it's not going to break this, it could be a good place to get short. So I'm going to have a quick look at euro pound as well. I managed to get a nice sell on this. I did have an earlier loss. It's important to just say I don't always get the wins, and I don't want to depict that I'm just winning on my channel falsely. There's always losers with trading, but fortunately my win was larger than my loss, so that was good. So let's just tidy that up as well and remove that indicator and just hop to the weekly. Now I'm kind of interested in the euro pound at the moment because of all the news that was due out next week might make it choppy for dollar pairs. So euro pound might be a good one to trade next week, early next week. So let's see if any technicals match up. Now the weekly, we got this bearish candlestick close, and it's pretty straightforward to see at a glance that price is coming down. And we got the bearish candlestick close. So first impressions are bearish for euro pound. And drop into the daily. The most obvious levels that strike me are the fact that we got a low, high is up there, a low is here, we got a new high form here, didn't break this one, and then we got a close below this low, which makes this the new low, which confirms this as the new lower high. And that's what I use for my Fibonacci retracement tool. Price kind of came close there. And until we break this low, this would be an area for optimum trade entry if I'm going for a trend continuation, but a pullback entry. So I'm going to just keep that box there just to be mindful of that next week. But I also like to look at the real recent price action. Now we had a key level here on the 4-hourly, and we got a close below that, which is quite interesting. Which means that using last week's data only, last week's price action, the high was this level up here. So what I'm looking at are the days. So last week price opened here. We got a high, a weekly high, but we closed below the open, made a little pullback, come down. So it's almost like a new little trend forming. So I'm going to just take my fib tool from the high of last week's candlestick to provide another little area, because I don't feel like it's likely to come all the way up here, but we may retrace into last week's candlestick. And I'd like to keep an eye on that for next week, because if price pulls back up here into this area where we had some consolidation and we get a nice candlestick pattern, that could be a good place to look for an entry short. I'm going to leave Australian dollar out because I don't really tend to trade it, and I think I'm probably running on long enough. So let's just go to gold here. Okay, gold's quite interesting. We've had this really nice strong uptrend here. And then the last few weeks, obviously in line with the elections, we've had a little bit of choppy action. We're kind of entering a range actually, which is probably what I marked there. So price came down, we got a very strong bullish, but then last week it did close bearish. So in short, what's going on with gold at the moment whether the uptrend is going to continue or whether we seem to be entering into a deeper pullback or a reversal. It looks like we are getting quite a shift because, once again, using pullbacks, looking at what structure, there's the high. This is a really interesting candlestick, very big, strong, bearish candlestick. Let's just make it a bit bigger. And from this bearish candlestick, price tried to pull up here. It didn't have enough strength, so it dropped. It broke this key level here, which could be a deeper pullback or could be a trend shift. But what leads me to believe that it could be a trend shift is that we tried to push up to break the highs, and we had another big, strong, bearish candlestick down. And from there, we've only had a few bullish candlesticks. They've been very small, which to me looks like it's waiting to have a sell-off. So be very interested to see how that goes with gold next week. If gold is selling off, that tends to mean that the dollar is stronger, which could indicate that the euro and the pound pairs may drop as well. But a lot of that can depend on what happens with the news next week. We've got a lot of major news coming up. So everything works together with the markets, and you just got to consider every piece of the puzzle. And I'd like to have a quick look at the XBX. I don't trade this, but I do like to just see what's going on because it affects my other investments. And as always, XBX is generally just trending higher. Ignore all this. This was from years ago. I just haven't tidied it up yet. But, you know, it's a really nice uptrend, especially for investing. And looking at most recent data for XBX, it last week closed very strong bullish. It looks like it's still going up, which could show why gold might be looking weak because they tend to work hand in hand. If the index is strong, gold tends to be a bit weaker. It's not set in stone, but it's just how they work in sympathy with each other. And I also want to have a quick look at Bitcoin because I do have some investments in cryptos that are doing really well at the moment, and I just want to be sure to kind of sell those before I get a pullback on Bitcoin. We've had this really nice push up from all-time highs on Bitcoin. The last few weeks have been very strong bullish candlesticks. Obviously, we've got the month end as well. So next week will be the new month. It'll be December. This month for Bitcoin has been a really nice, big, strong uptrend. And this time of year does tend to have a good impact. You can see here that we had a big uptrend. It carried on up until March. And we got the same again last year, November, December, January, February, big candlestick up, March, got the pullback. So I don't really want to close my positions too soon when I could make more. But that's the trick, isn't it? When you're trading, when you're in profit, it's timing when to get out. So there's my outlook for next week, trading the Forex markets, as well as a little insight into some indexes and commodities as well. I do feel like this video is running on quite long, so I'm going to hop onto my dashboard with the 5%ers, show you a quick update before we round up at the end. So last week with the fivers, I didn't actually trade this account. I did trade last week. I traded my live account because I was trading some different markets. But this account, this program that I'm enrolled into, the hypergrowth, I've been using to just trade pound dollar, just trading one strategy because it is probably my most accurate way of trading. Which is what I've wanted for this account, is I want to pass the challenge. So I've increased the chances by just trading 8 quality trades. Obviously, it means it's taking me a little bit slower because it means there isn't always a setup. And last week there just wasn't. It was too choppy for me. So I didn't trade it. But it's looking good. The account's really close to the target. I am hoping I hit it before the end of the month, before the end of December. That would be amazing. But, you know, I can't get ahead of it, can't push it, can't force the markets and all that jazz. But what I love about this account and what truly has helped me this year to stay on top of my trading psychology, my mindset, and obviously the results is the fact that this account with the 5%ers does not have a time limit. It's a complete game changer. And it's not just the hypergrowth program. They've got some other programs as well. They've got bootcamp, but they've also got high stakes, and high stakes doesn't have a time limit either, which means you can really take your time and focus on trading the best. It's so important for me, and it's why I wouldn't consider another prop firm. It's why I recommend these on my channel. So if you're thinking about having a go yourself with a prop firm, I definitely recommend the 5%ers. There's a link below in the description if you want to find out some more information. Or of course, check out this other video for a review. So there's a little insight into my process for calculating what I'm going to trade next week and how I'm going to approach the markets. But I'm really interested to learn more about what you do. So let me know in the comments below, is your process similar to mine? Do you do anything different? Let us know. Meanwhile, if you've enjoyed the video, please remember to like and subscribe to the channel, and I'll catch you in my next video. Thanks for watching. Bye.